Hi everyone, my name is Natalia Ramirez, and for my Section 3 book, it is Narwhal, Unicorn of the Sea by Ben Clanton. A little summary of the book is that this book is about Narwhal, our main character, that on his journey along, he meets a jellyfish that him, that they both become friends, but he refers them as an imaginary friend because they don't believe that neither one of them is real. And so along the journey, both narwhal and jellyfish are an adventure in the ocean to find a pod for narwhal. So, but along the story, jellyfish explain how there will be no other pods because Narwhal is the only one that is there. So throughout the story, Narwhal goes and asks other sea creatures like shark, turtle, Mr. Blowfish, and octopus to join his pod. So when he joins his pod, they each get a unicorn horn, which is known as a tusk tooth in the book, so that they look just like Narwhal. And with the pod, Narwhal explains how pods to him that they're ultimate cannonballs. You eat waffles and you fight crimes and have awesome parties. And at first, when they go along, Narwhal asks all the other sea creatures, but Jellyfish gets kind of jealous because Jellyfish was not asked to be part of the pod. But Narwhal kind of explained, well, I thought you were already in the group, so that's why I didn't ask. But Jellyfish eventually does end up joining. And a little lesson about this book is that it is okay to be different, because since Narwhal is the only one, but he has others that are kind of like him that want to be part of his pod, as well as friendship and imagination is a big part of this book. And a little something else about this book that I found interesting is that it includes fun facts about jellyfish and narwhals. And in this book, it also includes a narwhal song. A little description of the visuals is the background. So, as you read throughout the book, the background is just stuck between two colors, which I think is very simple, very complex. So, it's not very distracting and it just flows smoothly throughout the book. And so, it's just the concepts of the papers of blue or white, like with no other details except the drawings. As well, a part of the background, they included a blank page to show Narwhal's book, which is used for imagination. So I thought that was interesting to show that when I was flipping and reading, I just saw blank pages. And I thought that was very interesting because it creates an illusion of how Narwhal's book is filled with imagination because it is blank. And some illustrations of the book that I noticed is that the characters, they're drawn like of a pencil. They have like the outer lines that are bold and black, but they look like they were hand drawn, not images from Google or anything like that. As well, this book does illustrate the emotions of the characters as well, especially with Jellyfish. He has a lot of emotions shown in these two pages that I thought that were good because he has like a mad, a shocked face, and the other creatures are shocked as well. So I thought that was interesting because the expressions are really highlighted in this story on how they feel. Another thing about the illustrations that it includes contents. So in the beginning of the book, when you open it, it has contents where on each page is labeled, and it will talk about either the fun facts, where you can find the fun facts, the song, or like the chap. I would consider it chapter of the book, like if you want to which story you want to read because there are two different stories in here. One of them is just about the adventure that Narwhal goes on, and then the other one is this Narwhal's best book ever. As well that I noticed is that when this character has the dialogue, it has the arrow pointing at them, so they know kind of who is talking or who said what in the book. A genre of the book that I have noticed is three. So, graphic novel, it's a children's literature book, and it has humor. So, a little about how I identified that this book was a graphic novel is that this book includes the comic style squares with characters having dialogue that makes it easier for children to read, but as well, it's also engaging and it looks like a comic book, but without the superheroes in it, but except there's sea creatures in them instead of superheroes. And with the children's literature, I found that this book was that the language was simple. It had many different characters along in the story that I thought was very engaging. So it's not just the same people in the book. It has different characters that evolve and that the importance of them in the story. And how that this book does teach a lesson on friendships and as well on your imagination. And it also includes the narwhal song, fun facts about jellyfish and narwhals. So it's simple but also learning for children in this book. So it has many different lessons that can be learned or interesting things. Like the song can be a really engaging part where the teacher or even the student can sing the song and clap along with it, or they can even just learn amazing things that they probably have never heard of about jellyfish and narwhals. And another thing that I've noticed of the genre of the book is the humor. This book included a joke in the imagination book that Jellyfish was telling. It was about a sea monkey, and I thought it was pretty funny. So the joke is, why is 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. So I thought that was really funny. I think kids this age would find it funny because I find it funny as well. So overall, this book does have many genres in the book. My favorite quote from the book is, "It's an imagination book, Jelly. You have to pretend." I like this quote because it really does show that books don't have to have stories in them. They can be blank and you can make up the story as it goes. It can have different setting, it can have different characters, there could be a solution, there could be a problem. You can just make it your book the way you want it to be. There could be different events on what you like. Because I know with children, children are very creative and they have a big imagination. So I think this book really just shows them that you can have you could create a story with just a blank paper because it's your story. You can write it how you like. So I thought this was interesting but also fun because of how Jellyfish's imagination goes wild. With his, it's about a waffle in the beginning and then how it has to fight a robot, but and then along it has a strawberry jam to help him along in there, and then a sea monkey comes out. So this really just shows that sometimes stories don't have to make sense because of all the different characters, but it's just part of your imagination. You can make the book any way that you like. So I feel like in reading, sometimes it's just okay to have fun and to do what you like to do and learn about. A strength and weakness that I notice is that a strength of this book is that it does include humor. It has many engaging characters that you see throughout the book, and it does show a lot of realistic sea creatures that you can see, like if you go to the aquarium, if you go on Google. So this does tie in with real life sea creatures that you can see, which I like. But as well, it also does involve imagination in this. So I'm not sure, but I think that narwhals aren't really a realistic sea creature, but it could be an imaginative sea creature along the way. So it really just sparks an imagination that children can have when reading books or if they will make a book one day. So I think imagination is really fun to have in a book because it's just engaging, but it's also twisting. Like you would not expect, oh, well, this is cool. Even though one thing may not exist or if it does not make sense, it's all about the imagination and having fun and that it is engaging to read. Because I think that's what children look for in books is something that will stick to them, but is engaging and that's fun. A weakness that I saw from this book is that this book does have many pages, but I feel that the text and the words and the theme may be too simple for those. It does hold a strong message of friendship and imagination, but for some, I feel like the illustrations and the text may be too simple for those. It's just a book that seems engaging and fun for those. Another thing that I noticed is that it switches from one story to another. So this book in the beginning it talks about friendship, and then later on, and I would consider, I guess, a next chapter or another highlight of the book is the imagination. So it takes us on two different tales. Both do require narwhal and jellyfish. In the beginning, narwhal and jellyfish they are creating a pod together with many sea creatures, and in the next section of the book, it has Jellyfish and Narwhal talking about his favorite book, which is just blank pages. But Narwhal takes Jellyfish on the journey of imagination through creating his book that entitles many different characters from a waffle, a strawberry, a robot, and a sea monkey. So it may seem all over the place about Jellyfish's book, but it's about imagination, that anything in literature can be fun and engaging if you have and tie in imagination with it. For my classroom activity, I decided to do a create your own pod. So, with this, it allows them to get creative and it encourages their creative writing skills, which I think can be fun and engaging for them. So, it's also entertaining, but they're learning to write. So, with this activity, they would have to draw themselves as a sea creature and write their own story that includes either new characters or characters from the book. And then they would have to talk about the adventure that they go on, but it would have to focus on friendship and imagination. And as well, it has to use the comic style format. So I think it for them this can help them rewrite a story but allow their creativity and imagination to flow from the characters and the adventure that they go on. But it can be a good activity because it helps them work on their writing skills but also helps them have fun on writing. It would allow them to create new characters, adventures. So overall, I think this would be a good classroom activity.